Welcome back. Let's take you here now. The Men's Positive Masculinity Conference is underway in Pretoria. In its third year, this year's theme is Consolidating Commitments towards the African Union Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls. Let's get the latest from our reporter, Khayelihle Khumalo. Now, Kaya, thank you so much for your time. Of course, we know that we are currently observing the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence against children and women in this country, as well as internationally. Just talk to us about what is the aim of this conference and how do they aim to curb GBV?
Well, that's right, Nati. So I think there's a very clear recognition that the African continent should do a lot in combating the scourge of gender-based violence, and of course making sure that the men really become very active participants in dealing with this particular issue. But joining us now is one of the very key members here, all the way from the AU Commission, a special envoy. Madam Diop, thank you so much indeed for your time here on SABC News.
Thank you so much for coming to echo our voices, the voices of the African women, to end violence against women and girls.
Let's look at the importance of today. I mean, for the next 2 days, we're going to hear about these initiatives and the plans to really make sure that we deal with this particular problem, the gender-based violence. But you have this concept of positive masculinity. What can you do as member states in AU in making sure that we're able to reach this place where it's safe for women, girls, everyone?
African women are mobilizing, and there is a huge movement to say during COVID, and it's not just an African problem, it's a worldwide problem that we have seen during COVID and the lockdown. So what they said, we need to make sure that we end violence against women in our own context in Africa. And what they did under the leadership of the Nobel Peace Prize, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, wake-up call, and they call on African Union. What we could do is to facilitate, and we did it well. What we do is put in place a process with President Tshisekedi, President Ramaphosa, all of them, President Macky Sall, to say your leadership now to concentrate not just on the development, not on the crisis and conflict in Africa, where we are seeing women, the body of the women is misused in the battlefield. But what we need now is to make sure that we take it as a societal issue, but with the leadership of the African Union. So we are working toward a convention, and we hope that it will complement the Maputo Protocol, which is one of the more progressive instruments in Africa, but not enough. And with the convention, we hope that by in few months, we will be able to adopt it by 54 member states in Africa, but making sure also they implement it, and we will be there to follow up the actions. Because it's not about adopting, it's not about domesticating, but the accountability. That those who are really perpetrators brought to justice, and the system be in place. The protection of women, but also their participation and their leadership in decision making. I think today we are even talking beyond that, the women leading our economic transformation. Because if you give the power to the women in the workplace, not to be harassed, you give the power to the young women and the young men to perform, to have access to job, access to finance, women access to land. You take them and you are able to see a society where gender equality become the norms. And I think the fight we are doing here is about that. And today in November, where we say we wear all orange in every day, we are making sure that from Kinshasa, where we started, to Senegal, where we went last year, and here today in Pretoria, where the leaders of Africa are meeting under the leadership of the President of South Africa, and the women, they are here present and they are watching, even though it's a men conference, but women are watching. We are here to mobilize more, we are here to make sure that it happens, and we are here to tell that this is not our issue only, but it's a societal, it's a men issue, transforming our mindset together, boys and girls.
And just before I let you go, ma'am, you spoke about women in conflicts. I mean, obviously, the human rights violation, the flagrant abuse of rights. You look at what's happening in Eastern DRC, what's happening in Sudan, and many other areas of concern as well. And surely more should be done to make sure that those women and girls are protected at all costs.
I was 2 months ago in East DRC in the Solidarity mission. I can tell you that the situation of the women are still in the position that I call degrading. I'm inhuman. In the refugee camps, the displaced camps, no food. I don't talk about fuel or electricity or even nothing, the basic needs of women. Something needs to be done. We need to stop our war because the consequences are too big for us. It will take us millions of years before we develop, if we are going at that path of eliminating half of the population, by using their body, using their intellect, using the environment, using everything. So what we need to do is to stop our war and making sure that women are part and parcel of even ending the violence themselves. Ending, being at the table. How do we do it? Being in the peace process. Because we have so many ideas and tools and agenda for peace. It's a human security for women. Human security for the population. So I'm telling you, we have an agenda for peace. In my mandate at the African Union, this is part of what I'm doing. Going to Mali, going to Niger, going to Somalia, you said it, going to Sudan. We have war everywhere. But that is now the time to stop the war, to silence our gun, and to talk about development. We have so many resources, natural resources, human resources. We have everything that we need to develop our continent. But we need to concentrate on empowering our population, and empowering our women and girls will be the priority. That's why we are here in Pretoria to call for that action, immediate action, a wake-up call.
All right, so thank you so much indeed for your time. Maybe just to squeeze just another voice as well. A young person, one of the main envoys here, all the way from the continent. And Chido, thank you so much indeed for your time. Maybe just briefly, your presence here today, especially representing a young woman's voice.
Thank you very much for that. I think it's very important, and it's something that I highlighted in the opening statement, to say that young people's voices need to be represented. And the reason they need to be represented is because we make up the largest demographic in Africa. So therefore, any decision that's going to be made ultimately is going to affect us the most. Not only that, when we look at issues to do with gender-based violence, between 48% to 78% of people that are affected are young girls and adolescents. So it's crucial that their voices are represented. It's crucial that they also become part of these meetings. And when the convention is passed, that we also have a voice to what it's going to say, because it's affecting this generation. And if we don't stop it now, it will also affect the future generation.
And just before I let you go, Chido, in the interest of time, what do you hope to see come tomorrow? The declaration, the call to action, your expectations, just briefly?
Honestly, I think my expectations are post this summit. It's one thing for us to gather in a room. It's one thing for us to read the statements and the declarations. But there are young people, some in marginalized communities, that don't even know what's going on here, that don't even have access to technology. But what I would hope to see is walking the talk. Whatever is put in these declarations, a year from now, when we have the 4th African Union Men's Conference, we should be talking about policies that have changed. We should be talking about progress. We should be talking about reducing numbers of young people and young women that are affected by gender-based violence. Currently, I think it's unacceptable that in just one quarter alone, almost over 10,000 women, mostly young women, were raped in just one quarter. When you look about women that have lost their lives due to gender-based violence, globally it's at 89,000, but then within that 89,000, 19,000 are from Africa. So when we meet the next time, it's more those expectations out of the declarations. Have those numbers reduced? Are we seeing a tangible change? Do we have policies that look into this? Because even though we're talking about decreasing the numbers on gender-based violence or even eliminating it, we've also seen that there's been a reduction of young women reporting these cases. They keep decreasing in terms of reporting. Again, some of these challenges have to do with them being far away from police stations, being far away from court, and also feeling victimized. How can we make sure that within the policies and the infrastructures that we have in our governments protect the young girl and protect the young women too?
All right. Thank you so much indeed for your time, and all the best to you. So obviously, Unathi, those are some of the voices from right here in Pretoria. As you know, that it's the very first day of the AU's third men's conference. So it's all about making sure that they deepen commitments in fighting gender-based violence. With that, back to you in studio.